Ah, now it should be working. All right. More LCS talk, yay. I'll start in a second. I actually thought tomorrow was Friday. I'm surprised that tomorrow's Thursday. Oh well. One more day in the week, I guess. I'll go ahead and start in a minute. Stop yapping. I've been enjoying streaming. Just fun to talk. And meeting people is actually pretty fun. Meeting people in real life can be like kind of awkward because you don't know what to talk about. But when you have a stream with a title and a topic and you're just talking and people are joining, so much cooler. Um, all right, I'll start. Um, yeah, the topic is going to be about. Let me turn this on. I don't think you should. I don't think you can hear it, but turn on the fan. It's a little warm these days over here. Um, yeah, the topic is about viewership and success, and how despite the viewer. Oh, okay. Despite how the viewership numbers have decreased in the prime region. So the reason I say viewership, okay, let's talk about viewership. In North America, viewership compared to last split has increased. But what you don't take into account is a large number of those people are coming from cross streams from Cadril and Baiano, Baiano being the Brazilian Portuguese stream, which again, majority of them are probably going to be Brazilians or at least not North American, which is where which is a very important demographic because if you're selling to sponsors, which is the whole point viewership actually matters, is because of your sponsors. And that number has went down. The amount of North American viewers has went down. Now, international viewers went up. It's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's never a bad thing. But the fact that North American viewers has decreased is a bad thing. But I still call this split a success. The reason I do is because I think it has set foundation for a lot of good to come in the future. And sometimes you have to take a step backwards to take two steps forwards, or whatever the expression is saying. Um, in North America, we probably had more entertaining League of Legends than Europe. This might be biased, but the product of the North American product has been extremely entertaining the past split. And honestly, the past like couple years now, but they have been improving their product. The product has been a lot more fun. That um, in my books is a win because a lot of the gambles that the LCS took, like getting rid of analysis, basically, like the majority of analysis was done in between games. You got rid of that time in between games. That was it was a smart move, but at the same time, your your personnel, right? Like your broadcast people, a lot of them are analysts. And you're taking away a big strength of theirs and putting them in a position where that might not be where they shine. Like Emily, first and foremost, is a very good analyst and a journalist. You put her in a position where now she has to cast, or now she has to do these other things that aren't necessarily analytical in nature. All of a sudden, you see her struggling, and she's talked, publicly about how she felt like some of her casts. She's gotten a lot better, but again, she has to learn new um, skills that aren't just, hey, I have a board, I can analyze this game and I can explain it to you in a very proficient manner. and entertaining. It's not like analysis can't be entertaining, but they made the call that people want games faster. They don't want analyst desk, and they got rid of it, or the lounge or whatever, you know. And so that has definitely improved the product. Being on live patch has made it a lot more fun. Having teams like Shopify willing to play anything has been pretty entertaining. We saw Vayne top, we've seen Zach top, we've seen Zach mid, we've seen Scion mid, we've seen Garen mid, we've seen all these play. We've seen a lot of Hui. We were the first people to pick up Smolder. Um, I think overall it has made the LCS a better and more entertaining product. The shrinking to 8 teams has made it more fun. I will be honest. I Now, is it good for the health of the league in the long term? Probably not. But in the short term, was it fun? Yes, it was. And the other thing is like there's just more content. Having things like pros coming from the LCS itself is making more content, and the LCS rebrand, in my opinion, is a huge success. Well, and you might say, well, they didn't rebrand. The last time they rebranded was like, I don't know, 2020? Was that when they moved from NALCS to LCS, or 29? I don't remember when it was, but they didn't necessarily do a rebrand. But what they did was they moved away from, hey, the LCS has Cloud9, the LCS has EG, come watch these teams play in the LCS. They moved away from that, and they moved towards the LCS is a region and is a product that you should watch. We have all these cool players, we have these like cool stories. Come watch us, the LCS. And it might seem very similar, but it's actually very, very different. Um, the moving away from like LCS isn't necessarily marketing the LCS and is just giving opportunities for other teams. It almost went from like a field where kind of like a zoo, right? Instead of the zoo having like a big area and having, advertising being like, look at these lions. These lions are so cool. Everybody come watch these lions. Or, hey, look at these whales or dolphins. These dolphins are so cool. Come watch these dolphins. It moved away from that and it said, hey, we're a zoo. We have all these cool animals. We have these activities that go on. You should come and watch, come to the zoo. It doesn't matter if you're going to go watch the lions or the dolphins. The zoo is an interesting place to be. I think that's probably the best example I can give. And that moving away from like, look at Exhibit A, we are advertising Exhibit A to we're advertising the entire product. In my opinion, and I think I can at least notice that sentiment from Reddit and which is not a very good place, but Reddit, Twitter, and Discord. I mean, taking all of them as a conglomerate of things, it has been extremely entertaining and it has been very well. A lot of people have taken it very positively. So yeah, that's how do I do this? No. Okay, that's good. That has been one thing that has been extremely beneficial, I think, for the long term health of the league. Now, I actually asked this question to Raz. I think I left this part of the interview that I had, the second interview I did with him. I asked him, I said, was this something that was like purposeful? Did you guys purposefully move away from advertising teams to advertising the league? And he said, kinda. We started off 4 million hour watch hurts. It does. Rockwell. But I think that you, like what I was saying earlier, you have to take one step back, take 2 steps forward. And I think they're putting all of the the stepping stones, like they're putting all the bricks where they need to be, and then they can start building again. We had to take a step backwards just because of what's happening. But I think content like the pros, the rebranding of like the LCS is entertainment product, come watch the LCS rather than come watch the teams. Like Cloud9 is cool, watch Cloud9, and more ideation, a bit more freedom. We have pros. There's a lot more content. I don't know if you add things like pros, which right now is like as small as it's ever going to be. Like pros is only going to grow, right? And I don't know if they will keep doing pros. I don't think they'll do pros when they're in MSI. That seems a little bit difficult, but that would be amazing if you could get them the players that are actually competing from Team Liquid and FlyQuest to talk about the games, even if it's online. Like it doesn't have to be. It can be through like a Discord server, whatever it is. Like you have that capability, so please use it. I don't know that that's going to happen. I might ask about that actually. That'd be really cool. That's one thing. The other thing is like they moved away from a lot of analytical content and tried to do things that fans actually appreciate. The Drive series that they've been putting out has been really cool. They're focusing more on stories. and not just Doublelift and Bjergsen, because for a long time it was just them. It's not like they didn't have Drive last year. They had one with Prince. They've always sort of had these, but I think the angle that they're going with has been a lot more human and connects to a person whether they play League of Legends or not, which is really cool. Are You Smarter Than has been entertaining. I still I bash on the LCS for not making enough content, but I think if we're just comparing 2 years ago LCS to right now, it has been moving in the right direction, in my opinion. I think they've recognized and have admitted publicly that, yes, we need to be doing more of this, and we will be doing more of this. It's just we don't know how to fit this stuff in with the budget and the constraints that we have. And again, new, like, commissioner like Mark Z, even though you might say, like, he has failed in some aspects, he has had very good ideas. Like he wanted to co-stream NACL when there was no, LCS, and he was like, "We want to give people something to watch." Now it was he didn't advertise it. It was very last minute, and so it didn't happen well. They didn't do it well, but the idea was there, and I think they will just continue improving on the ideas that they have. I thought that you know the hosts that they give professional players was extremely smart. I would love to see more of that. I know NACL also needs it or open qualifier, like whatever it is. There's a very few amount of hosts that you can give, and there are a lot of people that should get those hosts or can benefit from those hosts. So I very much enjoyed the fact that they hosted. I would love to see more YouTube stuff. Like you have a big population on YouTube. It would be cool if you had someone who does YouTube. Like I don't think any pro players stream on YouTube, but if they did, it would be really cool to see. Like the YouTube might go to the NACL stream. Always send the people on YouTube there, but then the Twitch could go somewhere else. The idea of just having more hours of content around the league. I've mentioned this before, but even in terms of like podcasts and like weekly content, the interviewers, there have been way more interviews this split than last split. I mean, I'm one of them, obviously. I have done, I want to say, the most interviews in the LCS. Okay, that's for sure. I have done the most. There was a point, I think it was like week 3. By the end of week 3, I had done more interviews than every single person that does LCS interviews combined. But that's just because I was insane. I was like doing I did 16 week 3. I did like 8 week 2. I did another 8 or 9, maybe. Yeah, I did a lot. Um, but not just that, the fact that the interview, like the press media room that's at the LCS used to be kind of dead. It used to be like Degon, Travis, and that's pretty much it. Maybe one or two other people. Now it's just like full online and like offline. I've heard from people that the offline one is a lot more full. You have myself, you have Shibi, you have Jace Silvers, you have even David Shaynook is doing a bunch of interviews. Travis is still doing his, even though it's less. Degon is doing his. Sheep Esports has some people that are doing LCS interviews. Ashley Kang has moved in. Pentek. There's just so many people doing interviews, and it's just more content bringing eyes to the LCS, bringing discussion and whatnot to the LCS, which is great. In terms of like podcasts, you have the crossover podcast by David. You have Making the Rounds by Emily and Kelsey Moser. Kelsey Moser also put so many hours, which is something that obviously when she was coaching she wasn't able to do. So she had to take a step back from like content creation. It's awesome to see her doing more content. You have Cubby, who's been streaming a bunch of stuff and posting his stuff. You had, even before the split started, the amount of casters that were co-streaming or casting the what is that, Champs Queue, is it called? I forget. I mean, it keeps dying, but I think it's called Champs Queue, Champions Queue. The amount of people that were just every night, it was just like a thing until it died. That was really cool. You just have a lot of more people involved. And what this is, it feels a lot more grassroots. You have like watch parties that David was doing, which is really cool, which is something I really want to bring to Maryland. But first of all, I'm not big enough, I think, to I mean, 3 or 4 people is more than enough. But I'm actually kind of watching what David does and trying to learn from him. And then probably next year I will try. I also have, this month is like a very big month between like April and May. First of all, it's hard to do that kind of stuff for MSI because it's in the middle of the night. or not great times for most people here. And then the other thing is like I do plan on doing interviews, and it'll be hard to do like a watch party and an interview, whatnot. But I do have a lot of content coming out. I released a mini movie yesterday. I think tomorrow or the day after, I have a Chovy video that's coming out. I have a couple interviews that should be coming out as well. One with a caster, the play-by-play caster of LPL finals. Like after he finishes finals, I should be able to get him on an interview, which is going to be really cool. I'm excited to hear what he has to say. Reaching out to a couple other people from LCK. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I do have a couple other people actually from the LPL that I want to reach out to. So I have a lot of stuff like coming in, talking about North America, and that's just like one person. It's sad that I've done more stuff than what the LCS is doing, but I think the LCS has started doing stuff. They realized that okay, maybe we should post stuff on TikTok. Maybe we should post stuff on Twitter, on not on Twitter, YouTube Shorts, on YouTube. Um, I went on a tangent, but what was I saying? Yeah, so there was making the rounds. You have Power Spike. You have Summoning Insight. You have all of these people talking about LCS. And I think that's very important because in the past, it was almost like a monopoly. There was like Hotline League and then Summoning Insight and whatever like LFN was doing, and that's pretty much it. But now we have a lot more people talking about it. And maybe the people who used to be talking about it are talking about it louder. I think Lock In Esports has their thing that they talk about every week, but I think that's not specifically just LCS. Um, and so from a content standpoint, despite the amount of hours of the LCS was watched, the amount of hours that was created about the LCS, the amount of hours not necessarily what the LCS broadcast got, but people talking about the LCS has increased, and that will eventually trickle back in. Um, I do think that not just the the product and the content. It's not just that there's a better product and there's a lot more content. The narratives are really cool, um, and that's not something you can really control all the time. But it's a very important lesson on writing narratives or not creating narratives, but discovering narratives. And that's something that like the LCS has tried to do and has always like failed and has always just relied on double lift. Yeah, Bjergsen. Oh my god. Everybody loves them. Um can the rookies beat double lift and Bjergsen? And then it's just that's pretty much what the LCS had to rely on. It's really cool to see players being more outspoken and taking what's happening on pros and then using it. 100 Thieves being frauds was a narrative that could have easily been dropped. Like they could have dropped the ball on that. And in previous years, they definitely would have. From my experience watching it basically since 2015, um, that's something that's a lot cooler to see from the LCS and even bringing it up in their pros discussions. And I think they've done a really good job at taking what's being said on pros and then implementing that like sort of behind the scenes knowledge into actual gameplay. So even if it's very difficult in the past if you were to hear things like, 100 Thieves are frauds, you would hear that maybe in an interview and then that like it would kind of die out. But the fact that the cast kept bringing it up was something that I liked. One thing I didn't necessarily like them pushing narratives, them experimenting, is Berserker. Is he him? Is he back? Right? I think it was like, is he him? And it was from a quote from Bippo saying like, in the past when I play against Berserker, you could feel like he was him, right? He was the person who you never just beat, and now you don't feel that he doesn't have that him element anymore, and that's something that they kind of pushed a little too hard. They made it memey. Maybe it landed for other people. It missed for me, at least personally. Um, I mean, insulting Raz was fun, but the banter was fun. But yeah, I just felt like it was pushing it a little bit. Um, so I do think that they're experimenting in the right direction. I think the way they integrated chat was quite entertaining, and their Discord, there's a lot of room to grow, and I think they're moving in the right direction. And that's why I say even though the viewership has decreased. The North American viewership has decreased. I think it's a lot easier for you to start growing again when you're doing things that are putting you in place to succeed. I feel like in the past they weren't. They were trying to do the same thing and tweaking a little bit. I think they did a drastic change, and I think the change has been positive, and we can start moving forward. Now, do I think summer is going to be better than spring? I don't know, because I don't know what the LCS is planning on doing. If they're gonna continue on what they're doing, more pros episodes, more like chopping that stuff up, putting it on TikTok, talking about it, just bringing more eyes to the LCS, I think yes, it can grow, which is not normally how it works. Normally, spring is better than summer, or is it the other way around? I think spring is normally better than summer. Um, Actually, don't quote me on that. I don't remember. Uh, but I do think it has the potential to grow, and I wouldn't have said that in other years, like 2021, for example. Uh, was that the Denny year? No, that wasn't. Yeah, 2021, for example. It felt kind of dead. 2020 was as well. It just the narratives weren't there for me personally. I watched it because I had players that I enjoyed, but it wasn't like I was watching. I probably didn't watch all the games, which is very rare for me, knowing that I enjoy watching all the games. I probably watched highlights of all the games, but I didn't watch all the games. Um, so there's that as well. Um, there are a lot of things that I enjoyed from the split, at least in my personal experience. Um, I think maybe being an interviewer was easier in the past. It felt quite hectic actually at some of the days where I did like 4 interviews in a day, or 8 interviews in a day. Yeah, there are a couple of days where I did 8 interviews, and those days were like pretty hectic because it's like game ends, you get an interview, then you get the second interview. That's like at least 20 minutes, and then sometimes you have to wait in between, right? And then by the time you go to the game, a bunch of the game has already happened, so I have to rewind. I have to watch it on double speed. By the time I catch up, game's already over, so I don't really have much time to think about like what I want to ask or whatnot. It's been fast paced, which I think is good. Um, for most people, right? Because most people aren't waiting on interviews or whatnot. Um, but yeah, those are my thoughts on why the LCS is has succeeded in setting itself up for future increases in views. Um, and hopefully that we see them implementing these things of you know being out there more. I think MSI is a huge opportunity for the LCS to show off. Um, One thing that the LPL English TikTok account does, it just posts really cool stuff from the games, and I think it's a real opportunity for the LCS to do that, to to recognize what people enjoy and just post that stuff. It doesn't have to necessarily be, hey, we're the LCS, come watch us. It can just be you posting a TikTok of MSI, of Team Liquid doing something, or maybe getting stomped or whatever. Just a post that might make someone follow you. And in the future, when you're like, we have this cool matchup coming up, they might take a look. They might watch it. I know that TikTok Live isn't as easy to use, but if you think of shorts, like if they follow you because of a cool short about MSI and they're interested in MSI and there's like some cool storylines, and there are cool storylines coming into MSI. Your BLG, TES, JD, like Gen G and T1, like already just from the East, we have really cool storylines. Team Liquid um going and FlyQuest, what's gonna happen to their bottom lane? Like there's a lot of stuff I would love to hear. I'd love to hear that kind of rhetoric. And I don't know why we're not talking about how our teams will do at MSI. And I think that will come, but I would love to hear it from the teams that aren't there, maybe from casters and from the LCS uh, production in general. Um, But yeah, that's my spiel. Oh, that's but yeah, that's my spiel about why the LCS is not or why losing viewers may have not been a failure for the split. I still think it was a success in what they tried to do, which is basically a pretty big rebrand, right? And I think this version of the LCS has a lot of room to grow as compared to what they were doing previously. I'm glad with the changes. I'm happy with what's going on, and I can only imagine that it's going to keep growing. Personally, I will keep pushing more stuff for myself and from Shopify. And yeah, I think that's it. Short stream today. Nice.